Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be looking at something pretty interesting, this company Deepseek. You've probably seen all the headlines about them.
Yeah, they've kind of come out of nowhere.
Yeah, like Deepseek, this Chinese AI company, and
Right.
suddenly they're like the talk of the town, and everyone in the tech world is buzzing about them.
Yeah. It's pretty wild.
It-
Especially because a lot of people had never even heard of them before, and now all of a sudden their AI, this thing they call R1, is going head to head with the big names like OpenAI
Yeah,
and Google and all of that.
It's like, where did they come from?
Right. And not only that, but they're doing it at a fraction of the cost.
That's the crazy part.
That's what's really turning heads.
I was reading this article in Forbes, and it was saying how DeepSeek's R1 is like scoring just as well as the others in all these tests, like math problems and coding and all that.
Yeah.
Even complex reasoning. But then they dropped this bomb. It costs something like 90 to 95% less to run than the others. That's insane.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, that's huge.
It is.
That means all of a sudden you have small businesses, you have research teams that could never even dream of using this kind of AI, and now it's a possibility for them.
Like it's a total game changer.
Yeah.
No wonder the stock market is freaking out a little bit. The article I was reading had this graph of all the AI-related stocks, and it was literally like watching a roller coaster just plummet.
It's funny because I think the financial world, they really love predictability.
Right.
And Deepseek is anything but predictable right now.
Sure.
Wild card. So seeing these like established companies, these giants that have been around for a long time, suddenly maybe losing some ground, it's shaking things up.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But it's not just the money people who are talking. The internet has completely blown up about this.
That's right. And it's where things get really interesting because you're not just seeing your typical like tech analysis and, people trying to break down the code.
Right.
It's memes.
Oh, the memes. Movie references.
It's everything. People are trying to wrap their heads around what this means.
I think I saw a meme comparing it to that scene in The Big Short.
Oh, yeah.
When they realize that the whole housing market's about to go bust.
Yeah.
It's like that kind of like, oh my God, moment.
And a lot of Silicon Valley references, too.
Oh, yeah.
Which is hilarious.
So good. It's like everyone's trying to find a way to make sense of it, and humor is definitely a big part of that.
So just to be clear, for anyone who isn't super deep in the tech world, like we are when we say open source, what does that actually mean for R1?
So essentially it means the code behind it is basically available for anyone to use or modify. It's kind of like releasing the secret recipe for some incredible new dish.
Yeah.
And now anyone with the right ingredients can try to cook it up themselves.
So it's not just that DeepSeek is successful. It's that they're making this powerful AI accessible to pretty much anyone.
Right. And that's what I think is really causing a lot of these strong reactions. I mean, traditionally, this level of AI development, it was something that only these massive companies with tons of resources could even attempt.
It was like the exclusive club.
Right, exactly. And Deepseek is throwing a wrench in that whole system.
But I'm also seeing a good amount of skepticism online.
Sure.
People questioning if R1 can really be that good, or if there's some catch we don't know about yet.
I think that's understandable. When something sounds too good to be true, we naturally start to wonder what the downside is.
Yeah.
So I think what's important now is to kind of go beyond that initial hype.
Right.
Look for the concrete information about what R1 can actually do and what its limitations might be.
Yeah, we need more data.
Right.
But you got to admit, there is this like David versus Goliath thing going on here.
Absolutely.
You have DeepSeek, this underdog that seemingly came out of nowhere to shake up these giants of the AI world.
I love that. And I think part of the reason why people are reacting so strongly is because there is this like inherent human fascination with that underdog story.
Yeah.
Like, we want to root for the little guy.
Totally.
The one who's taking on the establishment.
Right. It's like almost like people are rooting for them to succeed.
Exactly. And I think that connects to this idea called brand anthropomorphism, where we project human qualities onto companies.
Okay.
So in this case, Deepseek is being seen as this, plucky newcomer taking on the big guys.
Right.
And people love that.
But at the end of the day, this isn't just a feel-good story, right?
Oh, definitely not.
There are some real implications here, both positive and potentially negative.
Absolutely. That's where we need to dive a little deeper.
Right.
We need to understand how Deepseek managed to achieve this.
Right.
How did they fly under the radar for so long?
Like, how did this happen?
What does it mean for the future of AI, not just in China, but globally?
Yeah, what does this mean for all of us?
Big questions.
Yeah.
We need answers.
Okay, so we've talked about, like, the shockwaves that Deepseek's R1 is sending through the tech world, the financial markets. Like, everyone's talking about it, but I'm kind of curious about Deepseek itself. Like,
Right.
how did they manage to stay under the radar for so long and then just, like, boom, drop this cutting-edge AI on everybody?
That's one of the big mysteries right now. And,
Yeah.
there's a lot of speculation. You have experts throwing out all sorts of theories, like maybe they had some secret government backing,
Oh, could be.
or maybe they had access to these massive data sets that nobody else had,
Right.
something that gave them an edge.
Right, like some secret sauce.
Exactly. And then there are some people who are saying that maybe it's just something about the way that AI is being developed in China.
Oh, okay.
Like maybe they have a different approach,
Right.
a different emphasis.
Okay.
Maybe they're more focused on like practical applications rather than just pure research.
So it's like they were quietly building this whole time.
Could be. I mean, it definitely challenges that whole assumption that Silicon Valley is like the undisputed leader in AI.
Right.
I mean, Deepseek coming out of seemingly nowhere to disrupt things is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it's a huge wake-up call.
Yeah.
And speaking of dynamic, how the internet is reacting to all of this.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just the memes and the jokes anymore.
Like getting real.
Like, people are really trying to understand what R1 means for the future.
Right. And for a lot of people, social media is like their main source of news and information now.
That's true.
So it's really fascinating to watch how they're using it to process all of this news.
Yeah.
You see everything from, those funny takes to like really serious in-depth analysis.
Right.
Attempts to predict what this means for the AI industry, for jobs, for, everything.
Everyone's trying to piece together this big puzzle. And what I find interesting is that amidst all the excitement and the, speculation, there's also like this sense of caution. Some concern.
Yeah, like what could this actually mean?
Yeah, like what about the potential downsides of having this open source model just out there for anyone to use?
Well, and that's a valid point, right? With any new technology, especially something as powerful as AI, you're going to have questions about how it's going to be used.
Yeah.
What the unintended consequences might be.
Right.
And remember, open source means the code's out there.
Anyone can grab it.
Anybody can use it, adapt it, do whatever they want with it.
So while that could lead to like a ton of amazing new innovations and, really great applications, there's also that risk of it being used for things that we maybe don't want.
Right. Like it's kind of like giving everyone access to this super powerful tool without necessarily having any control over how they use it.
Yeah, it's a little scary.
And that's why this whole conversation about responsible AI development is so important.
Right. Like now more than ever.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing a lot of debate online about that already. The ethical implications, the potential for misuse. It's like there's this tension between the excitement of what R1 could do and the worry about what could go wrong.
Yeah, and that tension is healthy.
Okay.
In a way, it's good that we're having these conversations.
Right.
It forces us to think critically about this technology.
It's not just a tech issue anymore.
No, it impacts all of us. We have to figure out how to use AI responsibly, how to make sure it actually benefits society as a whole.
And that leads to another big point that people were talking about online, this idea of democratizing AI.
Yes.
Deepseek going open source seems to be a big step in that direction.
Huge step. I mean, think about it for a second. If a small startup or research team somewhere, in a developing country, if they can suddenly access the same level of AI technology that used to only be available to these giant corporations, that changes everything.
It levels up the playing field for everybody.
Really exciting.
Yeah.
But like we've been saying, there are also risks.
Right. There's two sides to every coin.
Absolutely. You can't just make this super powerful technology widely available and not expect some unintended consequences.
So what's next? Where do we go from here? I mean, we've explored the internet's reaction, the financial impact, the potential, both good and bad. Like,
right.
What are the big questions we should be asking ourselves now as we navigate this new AI landscape that Deepseek has created?
Well, I think one of the most urgent questions is how do we make sure that this technology is developed responsibly?
Okay.
And used ethically?
Right.
Like, how do we create safeguards without stifling innovation.
It's a tough balance,
It is.
for sure.
Right.
And how do we make sure that those safeguards are fair and equitable?
Right. We don't want to create a system where only certain people or certain organizations benefit from this technology.
It needs to be for everyone.
Exactly. And that means that we need to have some really tough conversations
Yeah.
about who controls this technology, who profits from it, how do we prevent it from making existing inequalities even worse.
It's a lot to think about. It feels like we're at this like crossroads.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Deepseek's R1 has the potential to be incredibly transformative,
Absolutely.
but we have to be aware of the potential pitfalls as well.
I think it's a pivotal moment, but I'm actually optimistic.
Okay.
I think if we embrace both the opportunities and the challenges, if we have these critical conversations and work together, I think we can really harness the power of AI for good.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
I like the optimism.
Gotta have it.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential risks, but I also want to get into like the possible benefits of Deepseek's open source AI. Like, where could R1 really shine? Where could it make a difference?
Oh, man. The possibilities are huge, and that's what's so exciting about this. I
Yeah.
mean, imagine doctors in like rural communities
Okay.
using R1 to help diagnose patients, especially in areas where they might not have access to specialists,
Right.
or researchers using it to analyze these massive data sets
Uh-huh.
to accelerate drug discovery or to, develop new renewable energy solutions.
Mm-hmm. It's like you're giving a powerful tool to people who never had it before.
Exactly. And that could lead to some really incredible breakthroughs.
Yeah, and it's not just about solving these big global problems either.
Right.
Think about everyday tasks. Like R1 could help teachers personalize lesson plans for each student.
Oh, totally.
Or, help small businesses with marketing and customer service.
Absolutely. So many possibilities. It's not just about like changing the world in these grand ways.
Right.
It's also about improving people's lives on a more individual level.
Okay, so making things more efficient, more accessible, and, yeah, ultimately just improving quality of life across the board.
Exactly.
But obviously, we need to be realistic here.
Yeah.
We can't just assume that everyone's going to use this technology responsibly or that it's automatically going to solve all our problems.
Right.
Right.
Technology is a tool.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to us to use it wisely.
It's how we wield it.
Exactly.
Sure.
So I think one of the biggest challenges moving forward is going to be making sure that R1 is developed and deployed in a way that actually benefits everyone.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Not just a select few.
Right.
Okay.
So we need to be thinking about access equity, making sure that the benefits of this technology are shared widely.
We can't leave anyone behind.
Yeah. And that means having some really tough and maybe even uncomfortable conversations
Yeah.
about who controls this technology, who profits from it, and how do we prevent it from, making existing inequalities even worse.
It's a lot to grapple with. I don't know. It
Yeah.
feels like a real turning point in the AI landscape.
Mhm.
And it's kind of daunting, honestly, to think about all the implications.
It is. It's a pivotal moment. But I think
Okay.
by embracing both the opportunities and the challenges that we've been talking about, having these tough conversations, working together to shape the future,
Yeah.
I think we can actually harness this power for good.
Okay. That's a good note to end on. This deep dive has been quite a journey from the initial shock of Deepseek's arrival to like exploring the potential risks and benefits. And like you said, it's clear that R1 is a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
But the ultimate impact really does depend on the choices we make as a society.
We have the power.
Yeah, it's in our hands.
So this conversation needs to continue, and I encourage everyone listening to stay engaged, ask questions, and be a part of shaping the future of AI.
That's great advice. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Deepseek and its revolutionary R1.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll definitely be keeping an eye on this story, and we'll keep you updated on all the latest developments. Until next time.